Hey there, connoisseurs. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also, the channel that was created by a retail investor for retail investors and home to the best MJ community. Today is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. It's September 11th. Today, we remember those that were lost on this day so many years ago. Thoughts and prayers go out to those that were affected by that. And definitely heart goes out to those people. Also, today is the aftermath of the debate, so I'm not going to jump into that. I try not to be as political as possible, only to the extent that it pertains to MJ and the odd time crypto. But MJ is my passion, right? So that is the primary focus for me and my priority. But I do own more crypto than I do MJ dollar wise, but I think that'll soon change, and that's going to kind of fit into this video as well. But we're going to be talking in this video, will there be more 80+% corrections? And the debate, there was some positive and negatives on both sides, but obviously they didn't mention MJ and they didn't even mention crypto as expected. I did not think that they were going to mention MJ. There's so many other issues at play, right? Geopolitical tensions and abortion and, the border, healthcare, all that good stuff, right? Not good stuff, all that bad stuff, I guess you would say. But, I just mean in terms of issues, there's a lot of them. So we'll discuss, can we expect another 80+% correction in the MJ space? And I think the short answer is yes, but I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions. We were discussing this in the Pow Group private community today. A bunch of members and myself were discussing it. I gave my thoughts and opinions. I thought it made a good idea for a video. And speaking of which, I did up the prices for the Pow Group private community. So if you didn't sign up or you were thinking of signing up, you can check out powgroup.ca or pursuitofwealthgroup.com. I've been slowly increasing the price as time. It's been it takes up a lot of my time. We have close to 50 members in there now, paid members. So again, if you want to see information about that, you can go to powgroup.ca or pursuitofwealthgroup.com. Before we get to it, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel. If you're new, you can subscribe, take the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. As always, this is not financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor. And you should never buy or sell anything based on anything that I say or write. You can follow us over on X as well, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. And fun fact, they're going to be coming out with XTV. It's in beta right now, but it's going to be to compete with the likes of YouTube and Netflix. So this is something that we discussed today. When I say, we're going to see another 80+% correction, I don't mean from current levels. The chances of, going down 90+%, and in some cases like CGC, if we go to February 2021 high to the low here, let's just get the exact percentage. It's about 99.5% drawdown. So if we're, if we go to February 2021 to today's price, that's still over 99% correction. So when something's down 99% from all-time high, or the high of the previous cycle in the bull cycle, it's just bear and bull cycles, right? It's boom and busts. So at the end of the day, if something's down 90+%, what are the chances it's going to drop another 80-90%? Probably very slim to none. And if it did, I would question the longevity of this company. It probably isn't going to be around for much longer, right? It's probably because it's on its way to zero and it's probably not going to recover. So some of these MJ names, right? We obviously know that there's so much growth in the industry. It's still federally illegal in the US, right? It's still on the Schedule 1. So there's so much growth ahead of us. We haven't even scratched the surface. So unless you think MJ and these companies are just going to cease to exist, well, that's one thing. But if you think this sector is going to be here in 5, 10, 20 plus years from now, well, you have to factor that into your investment thesis, because just because something's down 99% doesn't mean it's a bad investment or, it's a bad company, right? This happens to the best companies in the world. Look at Amazon. In the .com days, it dropped 95% from the boom and bust cycles, right? That's all it is. And then over time, this is what I mentioned in the Pow Group private community today as well. And I know some people don't always, it's when I say something, it might be perceived differently, or I didn't explain it enough. Maybe I didn't articulate it quite enough that people can understand, or it's just that you mistakenly understood, right? Some people just think they understand, but they didn't quite understand what I meant. So I want this video to explain that. And just let this be a lesson that this isn't going to be the first or last time. This isn't the first or last time that we've seen a huge correction like that. If you take a look at CGC, going back all the way to 2014 and 2015, it dropped 73%. And then right around the Constellation news, right, in the run up into 2018 in Canada legalization, we even pulled back 65% in a bull market, right? So we pulled back 65%, then we pulled back another 52%, Then we pulled back about 32%, and then we had the blow off top, and then the monthly lower high and lower low and downtrend. We had this relief rally in 2021 when the Dems took control of the Senate and the White House, and everybody thought that was just the hopes of legalization. And we even ran, like, there's tons of opportunity here in both directions if you're going short or going long, right? But even from the low there, that was over a 500% move. And if we go to the lows here, over the last year or so, right from the lows of summer of 2023, we pumped over 440% in 3 months. And then in March into April, we pumped 428%-ish in 2 months. So the S&P 500 is accustomed to, 12 to 15% a year, usually on average. That's in a year, 12 to 15%, you're doing good. Well, this CGC, Canopy Growth, ran over 400% twice in a year, and at one point it ran 428% in just 2 months, right? So the opportunity is there. It's just what side of the fence are you on? Are you that type of investor who got sucked in near the top, and maybe it was your first time buying MJ, maybe it was your first time buying a stock, maybe you had zero knowledge about the stock market, right? So if you're buying near all-time highs, and what I tell people all the time is just go to stockcharts.com. It's free. Tradingview.com, free. There's even a link. If you go here, you can go down and click on the link. I put all the tools and stuff that I use here. It's affiliate links, but I do get a kickback for that. But it helps the channel out. And again, all the links are there. They're trusted, vetted links, things that I use. There's a lot of scams out there, so you got to make sure that you're trusting the links that you're clicking on. You're not just giving your money or your credit card away to anybody or sending crypto or something like that, right? But basically, just use the RSI and go to the weekly time frame. Change it from daily to the weekly. If you're looking to buy something for the long term and you're looking to invest, basically, and I'm not talking about selling, I'm just talking about, like, let's say you have zero position in Tilray, right? And you're looking at this chart and you're saying, okay, anything considered oversold, which is 70 and above, overbought, 70 and above, I don't want to buy in this area. So basically, anywhere in here, right, 70 and above, that's the no buy zone if you're investing. If you're looking to invest and buy for the long term and hold, you want to be buying here around 30 or below, which is oversold, right? Anywhere in here. That's where you want. That's where you want to load up, right? So what often happens is when we're up here, or, if we even go back to, 2018, whatever, is everybody and their dog is talking about it, right? And no one ever talks about something when the price is going down. It's when the prices are going up, there's fear of missing out, FOMO, and everybody and their dog's talking about it. But what happens is people get sucked in at the top, and then they have to endure these brutal bear markets. So if you knew nothing about technical analysis or a chart, all you have to do is just use this RSI, it's free, and just buy when this line gets close to 30 on the weekly RSI. That's all you need to do. And it's so much easier said than done because the media is trying to make you bullish and say that it's going to the moon and it's never going to correct ever again up here. And then down here, it's the worst sentiment ever and nobody wants anything to do with it because so many people have lost money, or the media is just saying, or not pumping it like it would be. Like right here, we'd be on the main page of CNBC, right? It'd be on the front website or the front page. So, it's just very different boom and bust cycles, right? And people generally want to get in when the price is going up. But then there's the case where, you see a big rally and then you correct a bunch, and you think you're getting a good deal, and then it just keeps going lower. That's what happened with CGC. So let's just take a look for a thought experiment. And again, I know there's going to be people who say, oh my God, he's comparing this to Amazon. They're not even in the same realm. Okay, well, this dropped 95% and it wasn't selling Schedule 1 illegal drugs in the US. So I don't care if you're selling everything or you're selling MJ. If this dropped 95% and there was concerns about its longevity and going concern to be able to continue as a going concern, Apple almost went bankrupt in 1997 if not for Microsoft investing $150 million into them. And now, on any given day, Apple sometimes is worth more than Microsoft, right? So it can happen to any company. What I'm comparing is the percentage, not the price. Only the boom and bust cycles and the percentages. And what you'll notice over time is that, in the first few years in that early adoption phase is where you see those 80 to 90+% pullbacks, right? It even happened to Amazon. But then over time, it starts to diminish, right? We pulled back about 57% and then 65% and then 30%, 32%, 29%. Then we just had a recent one of 57%. But why was that one so big of a pullback compared to these ones? It's because we ran harder. So the saying goes, the harder you run, the harder you fall. What goes up must come down. So the more you go up the harder it's boom and bust cycles, right? So it'll happen again. I'm not saying that Amazon will ever probably go down 80 to 90% again in a bear market. It might go down 60, 70% max, but it really depends on how extended we get, right? And then, like I said, you can still pull back, 30, even 50% sometimes in a bull market and still see a blow off top. So from that high to the low here, we pulled back about 85%. So let's just kind of use that as an example. Well, let's say we pulled back 85% again from the highs of February 2021. That's at $80, but factoring in pre-split, it would have been about $8, right? So most people buying it at $8, thinking, oh man, we were just at $56, not factoring in the split. So factoring in the split, say $564, when we're down at 80, it's like, oh, what a steal. But then from $80, it goes down another 96%, right? So it can always go lower. But what you want to do is you want to be careful when you're buying, right? Again, use RSI, use, your mistakes. Don't learn from this, right? If you're down 80, 90% in a portfolio, and whether it be MJ, whether it be crypto, I remember crypto, if we just go to Bitcoin all-time history index, same thing happened with crypto, right? In 2018, when we had that blow off top moment, and some people FOMO'd in around 20,000, just under 20,000, and we pulled back about 80%, right? And then how many people capitulated and sold and said, this stupid crypto thing's not going anywhere. We're just at 20,000. We're now at 3,000. And then in just a couple of years, it goes from 3,000 to 73,000, right? So if you would have just held, right, even if you bought at 20,000, you still would have made 260% gain. But what most people do is they buy into the hype, into the FOMO, into the euphoric raging bull top, and then they sell the absolute bear sentiment bottom. And then what happens is we usually recover. So again, unless you think, and the same thing happened to me. I didn't sell in 2017, 2018 in crypto, and I had to endure that. But then you best believe that in 2021, I took profits. And now I know to expect another, there's going to, maybe not in Bitcoin, 80+%, 80 to 90% correction, but in altcoins, we could easily see 80+% corrections, right? If Bitcoin were to even pull back 80% from the recent high here, that'd be about 14K, right? We were just at 15K not too long ago. So that's very, very possible, right? And we just pulled back about 76. But as you can see, same thing with Bitcoin, negative 88, negative 92, negative 85, negative 82, negative 71, negative 76, negative 41. So it diminishes over time, but it depends on how extended we get to the upside and how euphoric the bull cycle is. And look at this one. We barely had any support on the monthly. The difference was coming up here is we formed a nice couple of higher lows. And then here we just ranged. And then we started to trend back up toward resistance and new all-time highs. Here, we didn't have any support on the way up. So it ended up being a pretty heavy pullback because of that lack of support, right? So as of right now, we're probably going to be seeing crypto. And crypto, you have to think it was created in 2009, Bitcoin, and MJ didn't come onto the scene until 2014, 2015, right? So it's got about a cycle or so, maybe a cycle and a half head start. So again, if we just take a look at, say, like a name like Tilray, and what I did was I took the all-time Bitcoin price index, and I overlaid it here on Tilray. So when I say we're going to see another 80 to 90+% correction in MJ, I'm not talking about from current levels. What I'm talking about is if we see a huge rally, and what I did was I took the Bitcoin all-time price history index, and I took it to the point where we were about 6 years into its life cycle to kind of give you an example. So it kind of matches up with what we would expect, right? So you had a 99% correction, a 97% correction, and then along the way there was other corrections, right? There was a 65% correction there. Here we had a lower high and then a lower low. That was about a 63% correction, but it's not like there was an opportunity. It pumped over 13x, right? Tilray went from what was it? $3 or $4? Yeah. So it went from like $4 all the way up to $67 in just about 6 months, right? So anything can happen just on the hopes of legalization. And then even there off of the low to the high at 340, we went up about 130%, right? Just in a couple of months. So again, that's crazy gains when you think about it, when the S&P is only accustomed to around 15% a year, right? You get 130% in just a few months. So if, again, to apply that logic, 70, 80+% correction, if we were to see a rocket ship up here to, back up to that $67 mark rather, and then we could potentially see a 77% correction, another 68% correction. But again, this is the Bitcoin. I'm just showing you how it might diminish over time, where, maybe we see another 80% correction and then a nice move up to 52-week highs. Maybe we hit an all-time high again eventually. But, as this chart says, it could be 2030, might be after 2030 before we hit a new all-time high on Tilray. Maybe we never hit an all-time high on Tilray again. I think that's very possible, but it's going to probably take 5 to 10 years, maybe more. But I think somewhere around that $50 to $100, that could happen over the next 5 years or so. I think 5 to 10 years, very doable. So again, if we see that huge move up, well, yes, there can be 20% corrections, and in a bull market, right? Still in a bull market, there can be 30% corrections, there can be 50, but ultimately it should diminish over time. And eventually it's going to get to the point where MJ stocks just aren't all that exciting anymore, because they're going to have such a large market cap. And it's just like Amazon, right? If Amazon were to drop 95% today, the whole world would have to end, right? So it just wouldn't happen, right? Unless we're talking like 95%. If Amazon keeps going, if it rocket ships like another 200-300% from here, which would be insane, because that'd basically put it at like a $10 trillion market cap. If we get up to $250 or $360 and then we pull back, well, yeah, an 80% correction would bring us to around $60, right? And we're at 184 now, but that's not realistic, right? We're probably going to top out somewhere around, the 200s, 220s, and then pull back, 60% around $85 or something like that is what I could see, right? And we were just not too long ago at $81. They were on a double bottom in the end of January, the beginning of January 2023. So, it can happen. And again, it's going to happen again. Any new industry, it happens to any new industry. It's happened to big tech in the .com days. It happened to the electric vehicle sector. It's happened to crypto. It's happened to MJ. Any new, psychedelics, any new disruptive, industry and emerging market that is high growth ahead of it, right? That has an immense amount of growth. There's going to be volatility, and it goes both ways. You can't have the 80-90% corrections and then you can't not have that and want to get the 10x's or the 100x gains or even the 1000x gains, right? You can't get those life-changing returns without the possibility of the stock or the crypto pulling back 70-80+%, right? That's just volatility. We welcome volatility. We want the volatility, but eventually, once the sector matures or the stock matures, the market cap becomes so big that it starts to mature and it starts to become more boring, right? It used to be a point in time where tech stocks would give you crazy returns, whereas now it's a few 100%, right? But you're not going to get those 100x gains or those 10x gains, right, on big tech. It's just the time has come and gone. So that means the volatility, the upside is limited and the downside's limited. Eventually MJ stocks will get there, but like I've been saying for a while now, the blue chip phase is what's going to be the moment of truth for these MJ stocks, right? Just like the pets.com never stood the test of time in the .com era, right? It took, I think over a decade, on average about a decade, for these companies to really start to emerge, the winners, your Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks, and the Apples of the world. And, that, yes, there was a lot of upside from there, but then about 10 years after that, right? So it was about 20 years, right? And in MJ, we can't say that we're at critical mass or we're at mass adoption, or we can't say that we've reached a pinnacle in adoption or in the cycle or in the industry until the U.S. legalizes bare minimum at the federal level. And then after that, it's probably going to be another 5 to 10 years worth of letting the free market figure itself out, right? So we're at least 10 to 15 years away before we see this sector really start to mature, in my opinion. Like, even after the U.S. legalizes at the federal level, it's still going to be another 5 to 10 years probably before we hit like mega blue chip status, right? So that means there's so much growth ahead, there's so much volatility, and that means you're going to get volatility to upside, you're going to get tons of life-changing wealth, but with that life-changing wealth with that boom cycle comes a bust cycle, right? And that's when you need to expect these 70-80% corrections. So let that be a lesson. This probably won't be the last time we pull back 70, 80, 90% in MJ, right? The more that we do, the chances of that happening again diminish, and we should do it less and less every single bear cycle. But it all depends on how much you run up too, right? That's why we use percentages, not price. And it will happen to other industries. It'll happen to crypto again. And let that be known that if, like, let's say you start to pivot over to the psychedelic space, you have to expect that as well. For the next 5, 10, 15 years, there's going to continue to be 80, 90+% corrections in that space as well. Let's say a completely new industry comes along next week and, there's stocks that are just like maybe AI or something like that, right? There's going to be, and I'm not talking about NVIDIA or anything like that. I'm talking about like new industry, like new companies that are coming into the industry, maybe electric vehicles. That's a great example. And you're battling with, who's going to stand the test of time, right? You're going to have to, try to find that unicorn, right? That diamond in the rough, and try not to go bankrupt, right? and lose all your investment. That's why it's paid to be diversified as well. So you want to be diversified, but just let it be a lesson, right? If we don't learn from our past mistakes, I mentioned this in the Pal Group private community today. Let's see if I can remember what I said. We have to move forward. We can't let the past prevent us from the future of the opportunities tomorrow in the future, right? And it's also not good for us mentally to be dwelling on past mistakes or losses. It happens. It happens to everybody. If you didn't lose 100% of your account, then you're doing well. If you did, I'm sorry to hear that, but guess what? Life still goes on and you can still learn from that. Use that as a learning exercise, right? And try not to do it again. That's the whole reason why I created Pal Group in the first place. So if you want to go to palgroup.ca or pursuitofwealthgroup.com, check out our memberships. We also do a 1-week free trial. And come check it out, right? You don't have to join my community, but I wish that I would have had a community in 2017, 2018 when I was in crypto and MJ to bounce ideas off of people and kind of get the experience that other people have, right? And then at the end of the day, you have to hit the buy or sell button yourself, and we have to take accountability, we have to take responsibility, and at the end of the day, it's just money. Yes, we can try not to invest any more than we're willing to lose. We can try to dollar cost average. And if something going on a crazy run and it pulls back maybe 30, 40, 50%, maybe you don't go all in, right? Maybe you just start to buy a little bit at certain levels, right? And dollar cost average. And the longer that the bear market lasts, maybe you keep trying to buy the lows, right? And you just keep trying to lower that cost basis. And that's what I did with crypto in 2018, 2019, into 2020, the end of that bear market. And then it paid off handsomely, right? So now I'm doing the exact same thing with MJ. I was down, 70, 80% on some of the MJ names that I was holding. And now with all of the time that I've had to accumulate and, I sold some properties and things like that, I own more crypto dollar wise than I do MJ, but that's going to change. I'm going to be looking to rotate those profits here soon over the next, I call it, 3-6 months or so into more beaten down MJ, right? And just dollar cost averaging, and eventually, it's going to go back up. Unless you think this whole sector is going to completely cease to exist, or whatever sector it is that's down 80, 90%, well, maybe, you don't get back into it or you don't buy the dip. But I personally believe that MJ is going to be here for a long, long time. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here for as long as time itself, in my opinion. And we just have to be patient. We have to, if you're down 80, 90% in your MJ portfolio now, well, the bright side is you can learn that lesson for the next time. And the next time you buy, you're probably going to be a little bit more careful, or you're going to have a better plan, right? And if you didn't lose 100% of your money, then you're ahead. And if you did, I'm sorry to hear that. You're not the first. There's always a way to come back from it. So hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, I would appreciate it if you could leave a like, drop a comment as well. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and we'll continue the conversation there. It's Rod with Pal Group. Thanks again for joining us in the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll see you again on the next video.